the unit of L'Aquila. And it's my pleasure to introduce you as a first lecture, the lecture by Dr. Patrizia Montori. She's an historian, as you learned, historian of architecture, and she worked a lot on cultural heritage and disaster. And her lecture today is L'Aquila 2029, from transformation to transformation, a city under reconstruction in the year of pandemic. Because as you understood, the title of the school came out from some reflection that Patrizia and we ran for a couple of days around the subject with the other partners. Okay, Patrizia?
Yes. Good morning, everybody. Riproviamo. No, aspettate un attimo, scusate. Okay. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, okay.
Okay. My lecture is about L'Aquila, an interesting case of a historic city, because it is a historic city in transformation, in continuous transformation in the centuries for cyclic earthquake and reconstruction. And now for the worldwide pandemic of 20 and 21, the last physical reconstruction is the one after the earthquake of 2009. So we can make a very short overview about the history of the city, the foundation, and only some of the most important buildings in the historic center in the century, in the various area of the cities. A short overview about the foundation of L'Aquila. L'Aquila historically is considered a territorial city because it was founded in 1254 by a grouping of castle, little town, 100 according to the tradition that surrounded the basin on which it was built. And the city was characterized by this continuous reconstruction after the earthquakes. In this reconstruction, the city always regenerated itself in a shape with its locali, small areas of the city that we can see in a schematic plan of Girolamo Pico Fonticulano of 1575, this area. And in four quarti, the four districts in which the historic city is divided, and also the territory around. Portions of the city were and are connected by regular road network and market by squares, each distinguished by the presence of a symbol, a church, a fountain, noble palaces, that constitute the material plot and the symbol of the area. So we can say that L'Aquila in the century was an important city of Kingdom of Naples for a flourishing Silvan agro-pastoral economy, flourishing during the 18th century, despite this impervious orography of the territory for the high mountain around, despite the cyclic earthquake, the city was substantially renewed after the earthquake of 1703. And we can see the plan, the historic plan after of Antonio Francesco Vandi in 1753. We can see some of historic buildings that in the centuries were built in the city. For example, one is the Basilica of
Sorry, Patrizia, if I interrupt you. Okay.
Excuse me?
You were at the first. We were seeing only the first slide.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I don't know if now we see the second one.
Okay.
Okay.
You can see San Bernardino and other.
Yes. Now yes.
Okay. As well. Slowly. Allora, the Church of San Bernardino, the Basilica of San Bernardino, built with the adjacent convent between 1454 1472 in honor of the San Bernardino da Siena, was remain kept inside in the mausoleum made by Silvestro dell'Aquila. Another important place in the city and building is the Church of Santa Maria di Paganica, the Church Capo Quarto, the most important church of the area, placed on the highest point of the city. Another important building is the Spanish fort, a fortress built for the military reinforcement of a territory occurring during the Spanish domination in first half of 16th century. But in the contemporary period, in 19th and 20th century, after the unification of Italy, excuse me, of 1861, the city faced to a condition of economic and territorial marginality caused by a lack of communication systems, a herding crisis, and an insufficient development of agriculture in Abruzzo region. Early phenomena and of industrialization and a consequent shift of traffic currents from the Apennine Ridge to the coastal strip. So L'Aquila reacts to this new marginality thanks to some intervention. One of these intervention is the creation of a new communication route. For example, the railway lines. We can see in this historic image the inauguration of the L'Aquila station in 1875. Some events, important events for the city and the region, for example, the national and international Expo of 1888. In this process, in contemporary period, the city expand its urbanization, for example, in the area of Campo di Fossa, in English pit fields, in area located in the southern end of the 45 perimeter of the city, assigned by the foundation to the inhabitants of castles of Monticchio, Fonticchio, Ocre, and Ossa, and unbuilt after all the cyclic reconstruction, because the area is so named perhaps for the legend that want it populated by ghosts as a place of capital punishment, so remain unbuilt in the century. The only buildings in the area are three churches, now disappeared: the Church of Sant'Andrea, Santa Maria ai Quattro Coronati, and Santa Maria a Graiano. And we can see, in fact, in the map of 1888, the area, this one, still unbuilt, totally unbuilt. In the area, there is only one building, important building, the Church of Santa Maria in Colle Maggio, a famous church founded in 1288 by Pietro da Morrone, crowned Pope here with the name of Celestine the Fifth. And an high-test example of Romanesque architecture in Abruzzo, and a symbol of the city, in particular for the rose window of the church. Another building in the area unbuilt is the convent and the church of San Michele Arcangelo, here in the round, built by the Capuchin friar Francesco Vastarini Cresi, and a church with one nave and two buildings lateral with other function. Suppressed, the convent suppressed by the royal decree of July 1866, the church remain in use. And is important because in this building will host the Expo of the 1888. The Campo di Fossa in 19th century start to begin to be involved in the urban development thanks to some intervention of urbanization. First of all, the opening of Porta San Ferdinando, then named Naples, in 1820, and the moving of the historic axis of crossing route the city, Porta Bazzano, via Fortebraccio, via Roma, Porta Barete, in the southern part of the city. The strengthening of the historic axis of the city, the historic hinge of the city, Corso Federico II, Corso Vittorio Emanuele II, with number 2 in yellow. With the construction of arcades in 1880, we can see in this photo, and the opening of Viale degli Alberetti in red with number 3, an extension in still unbuilt area of the hinge Corso Vittorio Emanuele II, Corso Federico II. The opening of another street, another route, important route, the Viale di Collemaggio, which connect the Celestian Basilica to Viale degli Alberetti, that then named Viale Francesco Crispi. And we can see the transformation of the church and convent of San Michele Arcangelo in the new Expo Palace, the Hemicycle Palace, because this is an important intervention for the city, because triggers a definitive development of this area of pits, fields, Campo di Fossa, and the transformation in a new district for the middle class, the Villa district o neighborhood. The Expo Palace, it housed in this former church and convent, and transformed between 1888 by the Swiss Roman engineer Carlo Valdis, who maintains the pre-existing structural and planimetric system and assigns the nave of the church to the exhibition hall, and opens this hall to the city towards Viale degli Alberetti, with a spectacular colonnaded hemicycle that we can see in this historic photo, characterized by the relationship with city and celebration of urban glory, with the 16 busts of important persons of L'Aquila exhibited in a niche in the back wall of the portico in this part. The neighborhood of the villa in the 20th century became an area with an architectural dialogue, very interesting, between tradition and modernity in architecture. Only a short overview of the buildings with different styles in architecture. For example, residential buildings, little or more big, in Liberty style. For example, one is the Villino Nursia, built by the founder of an important Italian factory of sweets, that evokes a mountain chalet. And another example is the Villino Releva, with floral decorations, blue color, and other characteristics. Another shape, another face of this dialogue is the eclecticism and the modernism in some buildings built by fascist regime for the training of young fascists. For example, in eclectic style, the Casa del Balilla, designed by the engineer Luigi Cardilli. Or another example is the Casa della Giovane Italiana by the most famous engineer Achille Pintonello, with a modern style typical of the fascist period. Another voice of this dialogue is the Church of Cristo Re, designed by the architect Alberto Riccoboni, with the so-called simplified classicism style in architecture, a style proposed by the famous architect Marcello Piacentini, famous for the works during the fascist period, a style that was a compromise between rationalist and classical language, and with some figurative system that refers to the elements of Abruzzo tradition. For example, the flat termination of the facade of the church, like San Bernardino, Santa Maria in Colle Maggio, and other. And the earthquake of 2009 interrupt dramatically this continuity of use profound relationship between the city and the buildings, the place, between the inhabitants and the place, because many of the inhabitants moved in the so-called new towns, a new settlement built around the city. And so after in the reconstruction, L'Aquila have two different phases, very different, that of the historic center and that of the new town. The reconstruction of the historic center was aimed at regain, first of all, aggregation poles, and this goal in part it succeeded. In 2010, the important town planner of L'Aquila and famous in Italy, Martello Vittorini, pointed out the urgency of proceeding to the reconstruction of the city of L'Aquila, starting from the historical center. He said, with the fundamental priority to start from the empty spaces, from the squares and from the streets, founding element of the city and of the life of its citizens. In fact, the reconstruction, in particular for L'Aquila, city of squares, is not only a physical reconstruction, but also is an immaterial reconstruction for the relationship of the inhabitants with these historic places. In 2020, before the worldwide pandemic, really the historic center of L'Aquila was gradually regaining its aggregation poles through the reconstruction of building and public space, and also recovering or attribute to them a own identity, cultural, scientific, religious, administrative, and other. And one case is, for example, the opening of Museum Maxi, National Museum of 21st Century Arts, in Piazza Santa Maria in Paganica, located in the Palazzo Ardinghelli, an 18th century palace seriously damaged by the earthquake of 2009 and restored with the contribution of the Russian government. And we can see a photo of the facade of the palace after the earthquake, after the recent restoration, and the inside of the palace with the space of the museum, the Maxi Museum, with people inside. Another important pole recovered after in the reconstruction is the park of the castle, thanks to the construction of a little building, the park or castle auditorium, designed by the famous Italian architect Renzo Piano. In fact, the earthquake of 2009 caused the loss of the historic auditorium of del Castello, placed inside the castle, the historic castle, and one of the cornerstones of the cultural reality of L'Aquila. So the important Italian conductor Claudio Abbato invites the architect Renzo Piano to design a temporary structure for the music, and Renzo Piano designed a temporary auditorium in a point between Fontana Luminosa, that is here, and we can see in this photo, luminous fountain in English, a symbol of the transformations of the city during the contemporary era and during the fascist period. And the castle, so the auditorium of Piano is ideally a link between the history of L'Aquila and the modern city. And we can see the auditorium here. Another urban pole after the reconstruction becomes the Hemiciclo Palace and first of all the Exedra, the columnated Exedra. After the exhibition of 1888, the palace was transformed in the headquarters of Abruzzo Regional Council, with some awful internal transformations of the spaces and of the building. We can see this awful staircase in reinforced concrete made in the nave of the church, or this conference hall built in the cloister of the ancient convent. Another intervention is the construction of the gate of the protective fence of the building that interrupt the relationship between the building and the city. So after the earthquake of 2009 starts an intervention good to recovery some spaces. For example, one of the goals is the recovery of exhibition vocation of the building with the liberation of the nave of the church, intended after to temporary or permanent exhibition, and illuminated by this beautiful glass window with appunto an artistic glass window. The recovery of former cloister we can see with the elimination of the conference room and the creation of multifunctional hall with that evokes the open air space of monastic structure. The recovery of small vaulted rooms belonging to the convent, underground really, or used as boiler rooms, and assigns them to the library of the Abruzzo Regional Council, an important function, cultural function for the city. Scusate. Other important intervention is the elimination of the protective fence and of the building, and the creation of a single flooring, so the square in front of the Exedra become a venue for day and night events. The construction under the square of a conference room to host not only political events, but various types of events. The other phase of reconstruction, the new town, the new castles of L'Aquila, that dots the territory around the city, totally devoid of service and spaces for socialization and relationship to the ancient nucleus. After the earthquake, so the context of a widespread city, which historically already characterized the territory of L'Aquila, was dramatically amplified with the construction of these settlements, but settlements totally devoid of identity, of place. The intervention are of two types, fixed settlement with the project CASE, sustainable and eco-compatible anti-seismic complexes located in the countryside surrounding L'Aquila. And in another type of intervention are the MAP, temporary housing modules, in the municipalities of the rest of the seismic area, where the buildings of the CASE project were not wanted or could not be made. And the MAP are potentially reversible settlements located at short distance from some of the destroyed center, like Onna, San Gregorio, Fossa, San Demetrio, and other. The new town, in particular in the CASE project, are today anonymous places that dot territory of L'Aquila, and the lack of identity is a very hard problem. So the inhabitants to search these signs of a place and adapt this space anonymous green spaces and the space of the building, put in place small daily gestures such, for example, put children's games in the green area in front of the building, or placing clotheslines in the balconies of the buildings, and other little small gestures for find an identity of these places. Another type of intervention is the street art intervention. For example, we can see the murales made in the settlement of Case in Bazzano in 2014 by various associations of L'Aquila. And now another earthquake is certainly the worldwide pandemic COVID-19. That dramatically interrupt the process of mending of the social fabric of the city with various phases, completely altering the habits of the persons, the inhabitants of L'Aquila, like the other in all the world, shift the relationship between persons in web. There is a new psychological earthquake that has triggered new fears and obsession in persons in all the world, and in L'Aquila too. In L'Aquila, the population already affected by the effects of the 2009 earthquake, and now by the effects of worldwide pandemic of COVID. So it was disarming in this long and painful process after the earthquake to see the newly restored historic places and buildings in the center, in the historic center, have once become deserted due to the lockdown. We can see the torchlight in 6th of April 2020 in the 11th anniversary of the earthquake, totally desert, and other spaces of the historic center, the arcades nella Piazza Grande. After the boom of the last summer, with numerous tourists in the street of the city, perhaps due to the choice, only due to the choice of Italians to spend their holidays in Italy. In autumn and winter 2020 and 2021, the city has again emptied with for the restrictions, with serious consequences on commercial activities already hit hard by the earthquake of 2009. So, if I can, I would like to close my lecture with a video that we made for World Monument Fund that asked us to present the reconstruction of L'Aquila after the earthquake of 2009, and with a great question mark about the new future of L'Aquila. I try to share with you this video, if I can, and next I leave the floor to Professor Di Ludovico.
better run, run, hound. When I'm tired of running, yeah, I will come back home. 'Cause when I'm tired of running, yeah, I will come back home. And each moment seems to push us only further. Boy, you better run, run, hound.
Thank you, Patrizia. Thank you so much for your presentation. I think it was quite, you know, a wide perspective, historical perspective. And I will leave for questions later after Professor Donato Di Ludovico presentation, because we are going from one side of the science that are studying the city to the other side, let's say from the side of history and relationship with restoration to the side of planning. In fact, the lecture by Professor Di Ludovico is about spatial planning and cultural heritage after a disaster, a case of L'Aquila. So what is important is what we learn from the past. And is as historian, as architects, we learned a lot because we know techniques and restoration, but it seems that we as planner, and Donato like me is a planner, we are always struggling with the problem of what and how to protect everything before. That means we don't want to put in under risk, under exposure, the city and the monuments that Professor Samontuori already explained in such a beautiful way. So, Donato, Professor Di Ludovico, stage is yours.
Okay, I share my presentation. Can you see?
Yes.
Okay, good morning to all. I'm Donato Di Ludovico, and as Professor Paola Rizzi said before, I'm an urban planner. Today, I show you the relationship between the spatial planning and the cultural heritage, referring to a case study, the city of L'Aquila, which was hit by a very strong earthquake on 6 April of 2009. Today, the city is still under reconstruction, especially the historic center. The special office that manages the reconstruction foresees that it can be finished within 5 years, but I think it will take another 10 years. The overall expenditure for the reconstruction of the city at the end of the reconstruction will be about 10 billion euro. A good part of which will be used to rebuild the public and private cultural heritage. In the presentation, we will see how L'Aquila was founded and how it was transformed over the centuries. The first part of the presentation is similar to that of Patrizia. I show a history of L'Aquila with a point of view of the urban plan. Then we'll see how the cultural heritage of the city was treated in the urban planning of the city and in the reconstruction. Okay, in this slide, we can see the foundation of the city of L'Aquila that there was in the Middle Ages. L'Aquila is a medieval city. The foundation is in 1254 by the Comitatus Aquilanus, the castle. You can see here the castle of the middle and upper Aterno River Valley. In the picture, you can see the castle, and with the lines, the main relationship between the castle. The relationship is also visual. It's very important for in this period that there was this relation. In this way, they were able to control their territory. From the time of the founding of L'Aquila, there are castles, churches, convents, and main roads. Among these roads were the tratturi. The trattoria is a road used for move the sheep from central Italy to southern Italy during the winter. Sheep farming was the main activity in the mountains in central Italy. In fact, L'Aquila was founded at the foot of the Gran Sasso mountain. This picture shows the first nucleus of the city of L'Aquila. At the center, you can see the square, the first square, Piazza Duomo, Duomo Square. And the first urban core is this, the first urban core. And you can see some convents and some monasteries. The city used existing road and follow the contours of the land. After this foundation in 1254, in 1259, it was destroyed by Manfredi of Svevia, the kingdom of Sicily. With the new king Carlo d'Anjou, the French king, in 1265, the inhabitants, the people of the valley, began a negotiation to rebuild the city. And the rebuild the city began in 1266. It was a new foundation that kept the main square, Piazza Duomo, you can see here, and build a new town around it using new allotment, using the new insula. This is an insula. As you can see in this figure. The castle of the Comitatus Aquilanus contributed to the growth of the city, and after we can see how it's possible. Okay. Here you can see which in this picture which relates to the year 1315. You can see the churches, the aqueducts, the fountains, the seviers, and above all the wall of L'Aquila. This is the wall, the medieval wall of L'Aquila. And this still exists today in good state of preservation. This is a picture of the Comitatus Aquilanus, the castle that founded L'Aquila. And the Comitatus Aquilanus divide the city in 4 parts. You can see this even in Patrizia presentation. Each part of the city is visually related to its own part of the castle. And this is very important for the L'Aquila city. Okay, this is the situation of the city in 1500s. The numbers of building from 1 to 14 indicate the main palaces, some of which still exist today, but are very different today. Existing buildings is in black, you can see in black, and in white, for example, this little building, or this little building, or this building. In this age is in under construction. It can be seen that the city is in a process of formation and is not very dense. As you can see, there are many parts without building inside the wall, and there are the empty part is vegetable gardens. These are the first original maps of the city of L'Aquila. On the right, there is the Fonticulano map of 1600s, where the buildings are clearly visible. The presence of the third dimension makes it possible to read the relationship between the building and the urban fabric. There are many buildings that no longer exist today. On the left, there is another map of Fonticulano of 1575, in which the insulae identified for the foundation of the city are clearly visible. The insulae is this like a square. The form, this form is agreed, typical form of a city, Italian city. In 1503, L'Aquila became a city of a Spanish kingdom. From 1534 to 1567, the Spanish kingdom built a fortress, one of L'Aquila's most important cultural heritage features. You can see in this in the presentation of Patrizia. The slide below right show a photo here, this photo, from the beginning of the last century, when there was no urban area around the castle. The castle is alone. This is L'Aquila in 1600. It's very similar to the city of 1500. There are a few more palaces, and there are still many parts within the walls. And there are vegetable gardens still. Existing building is in black, the building under construction is in white, and you can be seen that the city is in the process of formation, and the density is increasing, but the density is low, very low. Another map. The condition of 1600 and 1500 you can see in this map of 1622 is a similar map to that of Fonticulano. with the third dimension. This map shows the most important palaces of the 18th century. Each palace has a name of the family owner. For L'Aquila, it's important that the most important family have a palace, even today. This is L'Aquila in 18th century. You can see the monasteries and the convents, many monasteries and convents. Almost of them today no longer exist. The building of L'Aquila, this is the building of L'Aquila in 1700. There are still many empty parts with the vegetables gardens. Here, west and south. And still existing buildings in black, and the building under construction is in white. The city is still in the process of formation. The density is increasing. Oh, this is the map of the city of 1703. The existing buildings are clearly visible in the picture. In 1703, a very strong earthquake destroyed completely L'Aquila. The gray buildings are completely collapsed. Remain only a few buildings in black. Remain only these 4 or 5 buildings. Reconstruction of L'Aquila would take a century, and the new city would be what we see today. L'Aquila is essentially a Baroque city. L'Aquila of today is a Baroque city, is not a medieval city, but with a medieval tissue. Remain the tissue. This is the Vandi map, which will be used as a reference for the reconstruction of the city in after the earthquake of the 1703. In this map, this is the Catalani map of the 1826, and here we can see that the vegetable gardens are no longer there, and that there are green parks in their place. A new vegetable gardens still remain only in northwest here. In this section, historic section, the building are still the city are still many empty, have still many empty parts with the vegetable gardens and green parks. The city is still in the process of formation. The density is increasing, but the density is still low. Here we are in 1808. The city grows again, but remain within the medieval walls empty part. We can see also here we can see also the railway and the train station. During the fascism, was made the first urban land use plan. This is two version of the this plan. The planner is an engineering. The name is Tian, and on the right, on the left, there is the urban plan of 1917, and on the right, the plan of 1931. there are no planning elements concerning cultural heritage, but only the plan when we can see in red in the map on left. We can see the new planning area where before there was the vegetable garden or the green park. And the issue is that will only be considered by Italian planners after the cultural heritage in Italy. The problem is that will only be considered by Italian planner only after the 1960s. Here, the planner in this period, the planner concentrated the attention only on the expansion of the city. This is a zoom on the proposal on the south of the city in 1970. The proposal is a green park. In 1931, the proposal is new part of the expansion of L'Aquila. And this building actually is the part of L'Aquila with fascism architecture. Here we are in the 1931, and we can see that the city has almost occupied all the space within the walls, but remain a little area of empty with vegetable garden. Is very little. After the war, the growth the growth of L'Aquila stops with the Second World War, and it restarted in the 1960s when was drawn the first expansion urban land use plan, which did not deal with the historic center. It is only for the expansion for the city. In 1975 was drawn an expansion plan of the entire city, which also covered the historic center and its cultural heritage. For the historic center was drawn a detailed restoration plan, which only defined how to preserve the cultural heritage. Each building has its own method of intervention. The plan does not address the issue of valorization of the cultural heritage. Since the 18 the problem is that in this type of plan there is only indication to preserve the building, but not for valorization, but not for develop the historic center. For example, for tourism, it's only one of the use. This is the detailed the restoration plan of historic center of the plan in 1975. At the right, you can see a table with the method of intervention for the building, but it's only for the preservation, for the conservation of the cultural heritage. In 1981, all the spaces within the wall were used, and the expansion of the city is underway to the north and west. The historic center is easily visible, and its fabric is visible in its fabric. I don't see my presentation. You see the presentation? Can you see?
Yes, we can see. Yeah, we can see. We can see.
I don't see.
I have no idea.
One moment, I share another time. You can see?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. In 1981, all the space. Okay, I have a problem with Patrizia. Patrizia, can you take off your camera? Okay. One moment, I don't know because I have this problem. Okay, you can you see? Perfect. Okay, this is the situation in 1981. At the beginning of the 90 years of the last century, there was an effort to a new urban plan, but it was never approved. However, it only dealt with some specific urban project and not with the historic center. It's untouchable. We are in 2003. The municipality of L'Aquila made a structural plan, but this will also not be approved, and there is not indication for historic center. A month before the 2009 earthquake, the municipality of L'Aquila approved a strategic plan, but it did not address the issue of cultural heritage in terms of a system that interacts with other systems, such as services or facilities or infrastructure. The valorization of cultural heritage is seen only as a management issues. On 6 April 2009, there was an earthquake that rendered many buildings unusable. There are in red. They are in red in this map. And you can see the big area in red, the name is red zone, zona rossa, of historic center, that the wall, because the wall historic center is damaged, destroyed, and unusable. This is a zoom on the west area, west sector of the city. Only a few data on the earthquake in 2009. 306 dead, 15,000 injured, 57 municipalities hit, 143,000 people, and 21,000 university students hit, 67,000 displaced person, over 20,000 buildings destroyed, damaged. Very few. After the earthquake, the strategic plan was updated, and the strategic plan was used to set up the reconstruction plan. And the reconstruction plan have many contents of the strategic plan. In the picture, you can see the project of the historic center, the urban project of the historic center. There are no specific strategies or action for the valorization of the cultural heritage. These are the objectives of the strategic plan for the historic center, and on cultural heritage there are no actions. In 2012 started the elaboration of urban mobility plan, but it stopped by analysis phases. In 2015 start also the elaboration of the new urban land use plan. This is a general map, but there is a specific study for the historic center. The new land use plan considers the historic center as a historic urban unit, which is defined as follows. The part of the city made of historical fabric, the 19th and the 20th century expansion within the walls, and the open space that have historical, cultural, urban quality characteristics. As was the case of the 1975 urban plan, the historic urban unit aims the conservation of fabrics, of buildings and open space through the regulation, but it's only a preservation. In this way, the conservation don't match to valorization, and the objective of a contemporary planning is to match the conservation with the valorization. This is the last plan. Today, the path of the new urban land use plan has stopped and is underway the new sustainable urban mobility plan. In this plan, there is a map on public mobility and active mobility that you can see in this slide. For active mobility is bicycle and walking, and active mobility connect the major facilities like the university, schools, the station, but do not connect the cultural heritage elements. In a city with high density of cultural heritage, public or active mobility would be very important to connect the cultural heritage elements. But you can see here there are no point of or elements of cultural heritage, but only the facilities. Okay, from the examples we have seen for the city of L'Aquila, it is clear that that before the earthquake there were no spatial planning tools dedicated to the valorization of cultural heritage. Not even the strategic plan had an axis dedicated to the development of cultural heritage. After the earthquake, the municipality approach did not change. The new strategic plan, the new land use plan, and the reconstruction plan do not have a specific line on the development of cultural heritage, but only indication to protection, that is bonds, and not it is a bonds and not a spatial action of valorization. It's a constraint. This is due to a consolidated cultural and scientific approach that believes that cultural heritage should be protected and preserved. This attitude is considered in opposition to valorization, to the use of cultural heritage for urban and social development. In Italy, some experimentation on the valorization of cultural heritage has been addressed in the landscape plans, which consider cultural heritage as a strategic factor, and it's very important, is a strategic factor in spatial development. However, this experimentation concerns cultural heritage outside urban area. This is a map, this is a JS of the Ministry of Cultural Heritage, in which the building that are bound, that have a constraint by law, are indicated with the red and green dots. There are a very high number of buildings, about 300. 300. It's very, the density is very, very, very high. After the 2&9 network, cultural heritage was rebuilt with great attention to historical and architectural value. The focus was on restoration and new technology without taking into account the cultural heritage is a system with a complex urban context. The municipality, together with the Ministry of Culture, has drawn up a document setting out the requirements to work in the history center of L'Aquila and its villages, but only the requirements, not the strategy of valorization. In L'Aquila, however, we have a number of projects by the public project, urban project, not plan, by the public bodies, University of L'Aquila or City Association, that are trying to address the issue of cultural heritage valorization. And we can see quickly three examples. One example is based on the new experimental 5G network in L'Aquila that enables efficient augmented reality. The incipit project of the University of L'Aquila was developed an augmented reality application. You can see here an example. The aim of the application is to describe the story of the historic center while keeping the memory. With our augmented reality, it will be possible to see how the urban landscape of L'Aquila looked before the earthquake, but also in past centuries. In this example, you can see that in past times some buildings were not there, and you can see the countryside. This is another example of the application. Okay, the second example of regards the project of site art. In this case, become cultural heritage the sheet of scaffolding. And now there is a new project to collect this heritage in a digital repository as a memory of the reconstruction of L'Aquila. And this is also cultural heritage. You can see here this product of the artist on the sheet of the scaffolding. This is the third example, is the restoration work of the medieval walls. The intervention with a strong focus on the identity, character of the walls and their relationship with the historical urban context have regarded the works of seismic consolidation, the grabbing of the vegetation and the development of their perceptual characteristics, the lighting, and the realization of internal and external walking path. Today, this allows to recognize immediately a landscape profile of the wall. You can see in the picture, to which has been conferred a new integrity of a new sense of the wall. It's a new identity for the L'Aquila after the earthquake. If I have 5 minutes, Paola.
Let's say that you have. Why not? I mean, I can stretch,
okay.
but
Only one slide. the last slide. One reflection. Today, the cultural heritage is still very often considered a sexual theme related to single elements separated from the spatial planning, while new trends consider cultural heritage as a system of elements, a vector for spatial development. This passage is first of all cultural, and it will be a difficult process. Started with the Granada Convention and the European Landscape Convention. So many fields of research are open. It's new, which have yet to be addressed and be in development. Thank you for attention. I have, if you have a question, I'm here.
Sorry for the light, but here is the storm is coming, and there is really a big, let's say, heavy rain, really heavy rain. We hope that there is a wording system running. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Donato, for this.
I think
that we can have open the ground for questions for Patrizia or Donato, please. If you have any question, any curiosity.
Silence.
That's, they are shy. The problem is the shyness of our students, and this is quite a big issue.
But the students, the Italian students, know my position and know the matter of the urban planning. I don't know if other students from
if they have any curiosity or they would like to ask some questions. Do you mind if I leave you just for 2 minutes, because there is really a storm and I is hitting all the windows. Sorry, Jana, could you take the? Sorry.
Okay, Paola, no problem. Maybe I will ask, or I will start the conversation with Donato and with Patrizia, because in your case it was an earthquake, but in our case, near the borders with Czech Republic, and it was in Czech Republic, not in Slovakia, but there was a tornado about 2 weeks ago, and it destroyed almost, it was just 20 kilometers, and some villages were completely destroyed. So I think that we can compare the situation with the situation in L'Aquila, and people are now desperate. They don't know what to do, how to start rebuilding. It's mess everywhere. So I think that we can compare these two catastrophes. So what would you suggest to start with? Because you know now how to reconstruct cities or villages in this case. I don't know if you've heard about this.
Make a community. In L'Aquila, the lake is this. In L'Aquila, we lack the reconstruction of the society. It's a problem because it's very strong, the reconstruction of the building and of the spaces, but is not ongoing the reconstruction of the community. And the construction in community, there is the first problem.
You are right. And also I heard that the people are just afraid that they start to reconstruction and it will come again. It means like it's a psychological effect that they are just worrying about the future, and if they start something and it will come again. So how it was in L'Aquila, maybe you had this experience with the earthquake personally, and have you just fight inside of you with the situation that happened in L'Aquila? So this is maybe a personal question, not this is urban design, but personally, how you felt?
We are here if you want an help or a discussion for this, we can make. In L'Aquila, we have a big experience for the reconstruction of building. but the experience of reconstruction of community is very few, and Paola is an expert of this. She touched with her hands this problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Paola was not here, so that.
Yes, which one? Which one?
No, I'm just asking about what to do when it happens. I mean, like such a in our case, not our, but in Czech case, it was tornado. In your case, it's earthquake. How to fight with it, because people are afraid that it will happen again. So why to reconstruct something, because they just are afraid that it will come again and again, and you know, the motivation and community is really.
If I can suggest, don't listen the politician.
Okay.
I will.
One of the most.
Let's say in my lecture, I'm going to show to you, because Vera yesterday asked, so my lecture that will be shorter. I'm going to show to you an example, for instance, of flooding in a community where we are using gaming simulation in order to protect the community itself from the disaster. The fact is that pre-disaster planning, apart the cultural heritage, I can give you a really quick and easy example. In Kochi, where I'm working since after the big Tohoku earthquake, is in an island in the south of Japan. There they have a really big earthquake every, let's say, the frequency is every 50 years. They're expecting it in the next 30 years. If I look, the picture of the last tsunami and earthquake, 1946. If I look the picture of the city nowadays, the only thing that can survive is the castle hill. Mm-hmm. Because in the past people knew, and the castle hill and then some other temples. So in the past people knew that, but the problem is that what it was shown by in the lecture of both my colleague here, the expansion of the city, the density that we have, of course, increased some risk, increased our exposure to some risk. Do we have to live in the forest and not in urban settlements? I don't think so. What we have to do is plan in advance, not to put, people and build environment under risk. Yeah. Sometimes you cannot avoid. This is why we talk about disaster mitigation. One of my expertise is disaster mitigation for urban cultural heritage. So, but this is a really good question. This is the question.
Thank you. Paola, before we start your lecture, I will just thank Donato and Patrizia for a very, very interesting presentation. And I think that we are going to see really how deep and how wide your knowledge is about this urban planning, and especially case of L'Aquila under the earthquake and what you did, and it was just amazing. But now I would like to ask Paola, because time is going very fast. I'm sorry. Yeah. So Paola, floor is yours. We can continue.
I will share my desktop again. And what I'm going to show to you quickly are, let's start from this. This is the case of Nan province, Nan region, a city that is often flooded. As you know, flooding is a natural phenomenon in some countries, and especially in countries where we have the Nile, or like here in Bangkok, Chao Phraya River, that are, natural way how to make and fertilize the land, the soil. So, but this problem became more and more serious according with some external situation, like now, that is unexpected, like heavy rain, climate change in a word. So we were asked to work with the community in order to understand how to protect, what kind of measures they can enhance by themselves, how they can empower, what they have to ask to, let's say, to the higher level of decision maker and power. So this is the presentation. Can you see it?
Yes, of course.
Okay, and it's going. Okay, so Vincenzo, the first name is Pantita Tawatana, is in Thai. Dr. Tawatana, she was also assistant of mine in Japan, and Vincenzo De Martino and Federica Pistis, that were my master student. So the situation is quite simple. It's raining. The level of water is increasing and is decreasing, but what to do and how to deal with, with this situation apart, to talk about it. So we have different ideas. These different ideas have to be combined in order to find from the flooding, and these ideas combined are emerged from the meeting. So Vincenzo, Federica and Vincenzo set the map. We set gaming simulation for the community for self-flood preparedness, and we want to share with them also some solution for the future. The presentation was regarding especially some, clear information about what was the risk, what was the hazard that they have to see, and how we can work on it. So this is quite simple, is representation, why we are going to have some flood. So here you can see there are different level of topography, and if we are here, okay, we can understand which one is under risk, which one is safe from the risk of flooding. And so it depends on the typology, and this is the first. The level of risk could be, just put up here, but you can see that these two houses are in the same thing. So they study with the community. We study about the typology of the architecture. I'm not going into detail. So what were the main problems during the flooding? The main problems were that, we have some uncontaminated water, and during the flooding, this water can be contaminated and polluted. And that means that the water source for the drinkable water became a problem, and so on. So there is a problem of water drainage. You can see there are some barriers that are barriers, but if something happened, they cannot. They force the water staying somewhere. So they prepare, they can be ready for something that it happened, and fight against all the, here you have some basic information. This is the situation usually. But they have also, even this is true. They have some kind of places just for the chicken to be safe and not be drawn, like this one. And there are some, footbridges, like in Venice, that they can allow you to cross when you have high tide. And we have some different ways how to avoid the garbage. This is a sort of floating emergency shelter that is in the garden of one of the member of the community, quite simple, built by himself, sorry. This is, this is the problem usually. People build and forget that the traditional, this is not traditional, of course, it's modern, but is based on the traditional knowledge. All the Thai traditional architecture, you have to access by a stair, and they are, on pillars higher, even if it's something happened. Yes, this is what is the result. So we have to understand what is the map of vulnerability, how the risk management is run and organized, and where and how to reduce the flood risk through some future solution that we can run on the simulation. In the simulation, there are different characters, different roles, and there is some tasks that are assigned. I don't want to go, I'm just going quickly. If you want to have it, you can have later on, but this is just, you know, Pantita, Dr. Tawatana wrote also with Dr. Toyoda a paper on the Journal of Risk Disaster directed by David Alexander. So on this gaming simulation. So what is the plan? How you can help? What you have to do? So all, you know, we are going to understand through discussion, through, let's say, information, through different kind of communication, how we can protect ourselves. The first, of course, was a sort of SMS service and solution. You have to think that this was 10 years ago, 9 years ago. So the system, the speakers, loudspeakers that cannot be reached by, you know, the flooding. So you can warn people about all the risk, also to give suggestions. There could be something that can help people, you know, that are in flooding, like this kind of tower. And discussion. Okay, we want, the first thing that we want to have is a evacuation plan, and then what we let's say we're asking to the population. And I'm sorry, but I don't think that I have the pictures, but the population, let's say, realized by themselves, they realized some measures. And this was the first one. The second one is, let's say, I can start from here. So this is a problem. Yesterday I talked to Professor about, again, related with the problem of neighborhood. Sorry, not neighborhood, with immigration. And we use a gaming simulation that we developed in the United States during the summer school, Izaga Summer School. We developed a process where we use gaming simulation in order to understand problems and issues related with the neighborhood that was really diverse, because there was a lot of migration. So I'm not going to give you, I mean, all the detail that at the moment are not so important. Just understand some problems like the I mean, I'm also not a migrant in Thailand, but I have the level of alien resident, because I'm teaching at university, at Thammasat University, and my role is professor, yes, but I'm an alien. So it doesn't matter how high skilled I am, the social level, doesn't matter, I'm an alien. So there are, we have to consider the positive and negative impact of immigration that I'm sure are well known to you, especially because there are a lot of sociologists among you, anthropologists. So we try to apply the design principles for a diverse neighborhood. We run survey with immigrant citizens, and we found what is, let's say, are the main problem in Chiang Mai. We applied it in Chiang Mai. Chiang Mai is a famous historical city, when one of probably the last walled small center surrounded by a canal in the Thai nation. So in Chiang Mai, the immigrant told us that there is a lack of public transport, less access to public space, educational service, little public and civic participation, no access to skill training, and there are two powers relying on the family reunion and citizenship, and they are not so diverse, I think, and have a lot of problem learning Thai. Yesterday we learned about problems to learn Basque language. But there are some potential factor that they told us, and some absent factor, and we work on this for our design. So this is a foundation, but a foundation that is related with networking with families, and there are also some centers of art centers. And you have to understand that in Thai culture, it's quite important to get, let's say, gather together in a specific space, and they have a community home, because there is always a community leader. Sometimes it is a monk, but sometimes it's a trader, or sometimes it's some person that has some charisma. So we organize such kind of a meeting with them. What are the main problems? This is simplified by the fact that this barrier doesn't allow to have access to the river, to the bank, and is occupied. So we applied gaming simulation. In our aim were to use it just learning by doing, like a sort of multi-log conversation, just to understand how to swap shows, and then it was more related with role playing, and we want people to brainstorm, to experience, and try to improve something. So this was one of the test games that we run. This lady is Dr. Yanin Huyakorn, and she also helped us to run the gaming simulation. This was, I'm not going into, but this was when we designed the gaming simulation during the summer school, following the same principles that I mentioned. So what happened after the game? This is important. After the game session, many residents start to talk with the immigrant people for the first time. And they understand, and also they realize that they want to know more of these people that were just their neighbors. Many of them think that using this kind of tools, and this is maybe for Professor Di Ludovico, they understood how important is the tool of urban planning, and how it could help to improve their environment and improve the decision making into their environment. So not only in Chiang Mai but also in Thailand. They don't think, and this is also quite important, they realize that despite the fact that they would like to know more about the newcomers, and they realize that they didn't know much about, let's say, a process of deeper integration is not enough to know your neighborhood. It's just a starting point. So they wanted, because it was 3 years ago, they wanted the government at the higher level and the stakeholder to come and work with them, but seriously. They understood what have to be done, and they start to meet weekly. That is, that is a sort of, let's say, a sort of spinning of new ideas, new way to think about the environment, and what is important, they didn't stop after, you know, we left the place, and we end, let's say, not only the gaming simulation, but with the process. But they played and promote in their own environment about it. So this is some of the result. I'm not going. This is just some. Again, you see here, Dr. Janine Huyekorn, and that was, you know, the meeting with people. And this is the project that they designed after all this, let's say, gaming simulation, spinning the brainstorming. They start to think what they want to do about this. Was a waterfront, quite important, what they want to use, how they want to use. And here you see from the new project that they start to establish some new, let's say, hub. I have to say that this diversity is really diverse, because in this time, talk about religion is really sensitive issues. But we have here Muslim, Christian, and Buddhist, and they, you know, they use this as a sort of hubs instead of going against each other. Let's say the good starting, let's say, just underline this, the good starting point for Chiang Mai neighborhood diversity could be the use of some vernacular old building that can room different uses, and the green spaces, the quality of pedestrian the street. This is common known everywhere, because if you talk to someone, my students, the first things when they have something related with cultural heritage, with Laura, we witnessed in at the end of the course, everyone is proposing bike lanes or museums. Is not, but you have to understand that is not the item in itself, but is the way how we organize it within an idea, within a philosophy, within an approach, within a view, within a perspective or a vision. And this is what happened here, because let's say the project and the design was not the starting point. That was the result of the process. We design, this is also encourage a more, let's say, approach of participatory approach. I would like to, okay, 6 minutes, I will be quick, and then I will leave with a funny video. You know, gaming simulation, yesterday we were talking about gaming simulation and where we use it. And I remember, I was looking for some example to give you, but as I was telling today, since it's almost more than 30 years that I'm working with this tool, and there is no documentation. I talked to you yesterday, right? That is a need to document, also not for you, that I never care about it, but for the one that start or they can use your games. This is, I found just in the down this morning, I found that I had a gaming simulator, use City of Emotions with a community, a group of women that were working in agricultural sector, how to improve their, you know, their work, how to, let's say, promote which vision they have to enhance for their production. And here you can see we were really in a nice space given by some of the participants. We were there. We use really simple tools and artifacts, as you can see here. I just explain some basic principles, and they start to discuss. And I brought with me really silly things taken from, you know, whatever I found something related with agriculture. And the the ladies were really, really interested, really active, and they start to design their own farm. I mean, they try to, you know, we have people with a different level of culture, different level of education. They are different in many ways, and in agriculture, the role of the woman is quite important and quite neglected, even if it's always enlightened and you know, celebrate. But the fact is that they are almost neglected. So they designed this, they were exciting, and they start to present it, and it was really, really, you know, really often fun, even funny, as you can see here. So they present in a different way, and you can see it's really, really simple the way how we can organize such an activity. And if I can, and you are not so, you can see my screen, yes. If you are not so so bored, I would like to talk about last case. Last case is a case where we design a gaming simulation.
Benvenuti a Malie. Inizierete ora a giocare con I personaggi e la storia dei luoghi del parco letterario Carlo Levi. Il vostro compito sarà quello di risolvere. This is a gaming simulation on. Okay. Benvenuti a Malie.
So you can write your name, and then you can go ahead, and you are going, you receive a letter, and the letter has a sort of mystery, and you go to this place and blah, blah, blah. You have a map here, and what I want to show to you is not this one, but the fact that, and this is the last video. Sorry, can you hear the audio of the video or not?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Di ottimo allenamento.
Piano, attraverso la visita ai luoghi descritti da Carlo Levi, si propone di coinvolgere gli studenti nello studio del Cristo sepolto. Cerchiamo di capire di più.
I ragazzi di Aliano, Siriano e Grassano sono stati i primi a sperimentare la validità di un gioco didattico di grande interesse per far conoscere, attraverso l'attività ludica, luoghi e personaggi di un romanzo come Il Cristo si è fermato ad Eboli. L'iniziativa promossa dal Parco Letterario Carlo Levi è stata realizzata anche in versione CD-ROM grazie alla collaborazione dell'Istituto di Architettura dell'Università di Venezia.
La versione reale tende non solo a coinvolgere i ragazzi di questo territorio, ma anche la popolazione di Aliano. Questo perché il parco letterario è una realtà di sviluppo locale. Ma allo stesso tempo la versione virtuale, come lei diceva, su CD-ROM avrà una diffusione internazionale e nazionale, mi scusi, proprio perché intende che tutti i ragazzini, tutte le scuole medie d'Italia potranno esplorare, cercando di risolvere l'enigma, il mistero nascosto dietro Malie, esplorare il parco letterario e tutte le bellezze naturali che si possono trovare.
Noi all'interno dell'Istituto Universitario di Architettura di Venezia, come laboratorio, ci occupiamo di giochi, e di giochi di simulazione, di giochi educativi, e quindi l'opportunità che il Parco Levi ci ha dato di sviluppare un gioco sulle opere, sulla vita di Levi è stata un'opportunità che si inseriva in un'attività che da molti anni facciamo. Poi, perché in una facoltà di urbanistica all'interno dell'Istituto di Architettura, questa attenzione ai problemi dello sviluppo locale, alla valorizzazione del patrimonio culturale, storico, architettonico, anche delle realtà, diciamo, più lontane, ma particolarmente interessanti, come sono queste di Aliano, con lo spessore storico-culturale che hanno, è quasi un'esigenza più che un'opportunità.
Interessa
I don't know how, okay.
What a beautiful Italian professoressa in the news, Paola.
I cannot say that, because as usually, as it happens usually, you are working on the backstage, and they interview you during the organization of this, and you are in the backstage. So, I didn't at that time. It was 20 years ago. At that time, I didn't show it to my late mom, you know, mother, because she will kill me.
Beautiful.
Anyhow, that was the last one. Just to explain what was saying in Italian, we realized the video game, and again, the one that I was starting to show to you was 20 years ago, not 2 years ago. 20 years ago was a big project that was related with the literature park of Agliano. Agliano is a city that was where was a famous Italian writer and painter, Carlo Levi, was confined during the fascism. He wrote this Cristo si è fermato a Eboli, Cristo stopped in Eboli, and is a sort of and this area was also hit by the earthquake in the 80s. And when we arrived there, I arrived there in 1999 because I was asked to organize a gaming simulation. Let's say there was still a road broken and never rebuilt after the earthquake. So the isolation of these places, of these small villages, it was quite high, and they tried to, let's say, to enhance, to empower the local government. What was the problem? Is that probably we were too in advance. We organized everything, and then, you know, the project finished, the volunteers flow away, the money finished, whatever. But what happened? 20 years after, there is a sort of reboosting of the activities, economical activities related with tourism in the area. And there are what they call sentimental journey. The sentimental journey copy exactly the path, the map that you have seen in the game and behind the player. And the other important thing is it was that at that time not only the kids of 3 villages played there, but you saw all the old people around, the priest taking picture, the musician making, you know, that's it. So this is the power of gaming simulation. I'm so sorry that we do not have time to explore more. I know that I was particularly boring in my lessons in these 3 days, but I hope that you catch the soul of what I want to say. Thank you so much.
You were not boring at all.
A little bit. Thank you. You know, because you are my friend.
Well, I don't want to take a lot of time. One important question and practical question. I have noticed you have summarized in your presentation about Thailand that there were, well, you have summarized problems, okay? Not enough public transport, whatever. Yeah. And one of the problem I have noticed, which I can imagine in that country, is that there is a unwillingness or lack of participation of the people. Did I understand well?
Yeah.
How did you make? Because this is something what is quite common also in Slovakia. And when you want to move forward with some projects and participation with the people, it's better. It has been getting better. But anyway, I wanted to ask you, how do you manage to also in Thailand to make them to participate on the project? Because just to talk to them, to explain, okay, this is one way, but I don't know. In Italy, you are more used to, no, you are not. Okay, okay then. Okay, that was the question. How?
Nowhere.
How?
Nowhere. Except in areas where there are a strong bond between the community, or the system itself, like in Japan, is somehow community-based. So, you know, there are, but also in Thailand it happens. We have some facilitation for that. There is a sort of, but this is sociologists can tell you more. There is a sort of structure of the society where the core is not the individual person, but a single person, but is more, let's say, a group of or community, let's call it. That is easier, you know, but it's easier, but it doesn't mean that it's easier your task. It's just easier to have people. So in a word, how to attract people? In the last 30 years, I was asked this question, and how we attract people to follow the summer school. We can use two ways. One is to say that there is something absolutely unknown, unexpected, and new that they can learn there, and something else is that they will be rewarded. I don't want to say that we are selfish. It's just using, you know, they have a master in business plan, in its business administration probably, and they work in marketing for several years. So it's just to use some techniques, communication techniques, and some strategies. In my case, the strategies is to identify the important key role in the community. So when you have the key role on your side, you can try and see how to attract the others. Unless there is one thing, but I don't trust much in the participation like this. Also in L'Aquila, there was a lot of participation that was under the rage. You know, no, not here. I'm angry because something happened. This is also a good way how to attract, I mean, to make people to work together.
Exactly. But when it touches you somehow personally, that's the best way, I understand.
Yeah, but it's the best way to attract, but it's not the best way to work with.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. So the balance is, after my experience, you know, sometimes we were only lucky. Sometimes it was a failure. It was a failure. I mean, why say that is not a failure? We are not selling products here. So, and it's important to understand that there were failures. And the failures was according with the fact that, for instance, everybody came because it was important, the decision at this point or the project or whatever. Once this interest vanishes, people disappears. So to keep and to make, you know, working in Thailand, it was good, but I think that it was because we had good target. The population there was a good target. Wise, and they can drag and guide people, also others. I don't know if I answer satisfactorily.
Yeah, I understand.
But this is the problem. Other questions? No? So Jana, I don't know where Lucia is. I think that your students are coming with you later on, right? Yeah.
I am here still, but I still have the drilling behind me.
Okay.
But I am here all the time, and I'm very happy with all the proceedings of today. So just to make sure that I am here, and I just wanted to say that for the last time we would meet tomorrow as planned at 9.
Lucia.
Yeah.
I think that this time is Jagiellonica that is running. So from tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Presentations.
Yes.
So could you suggest maybe this evening, or you know, just some program with openings and presentation for first, second, third? We can follow as Jana proposed the day, like first Polish, second,
yes.
Third Spanish, and fourth Italian. And yeah, so thank you so much.
Okay, I mean, this is how we are going to do it. So we will start with us, and then we will move with Slovakian partners, and then with Bilbao, and then with the Italian team. Okay.
Are there going to be someone who also say from external point of view that watch our, I mean, the work of the students and maybe say something or close the sessions?
Yeah, we can have someone just to close the session and to comment on everything. But also, I think it would be good if we ended all the team, so all of us could also make some comments in the end. So we could do a very short evaluation sprint, so that you could just say what you think, and then I would not bother everyone tomorrow, but then I would just send the link to online evaluation afterwards. Okay.
Thank you so much, Lucia.
Okay. Thank you, Paola.
So thank you to everybody. Thank you to my wonderful colleagues today. They try to keep shorter, but they can't. I know, myself too. So see you in our team later. I guess Jana also. And thank you for the external, I mean, all the students that follow right now the course. So thank you so much.
Cheers, bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.